Alright, we just start recording, so.
Hello, good evening. Just want to welcome everybody to the Arizona Psychedelic Society. Hello. Thank you for coming this Monday night in March. March something. It's Monday, that's all I know. So we're here, thank you for joining us. I just wanted to just briefly take the time to introduce our topic for this evening, and actually our panel of co-hosts, co-facilitators. I love this. I'll introduce myself. My name is Andrea Twitchell, and I'm a co-facilitator for the Arizona Psychedelic Society with Troy Mattson and also with Adam Staples. We're all original organizers for this group and the Phoenix Psychedelic Society as well. And as most of you know, we have started our ongoing Monday night talk series here at Meraki Kava Bar. Always a wonderful thank you to Tracy and her staff and all the wonderful work that she's doing here in the community as well, with her yoga studio next door and her indoor dog park, which is just right down on the other side of the complex. So with that being said, maybe just take a little moment and everybody just come together with just a couple breaths. Put your feet on the floor. Let's get a little grounded and present with one another. If everybody can just take a moment, take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Everybody get grounded, release, let go. This is really more for me. Thank you. One more nice deep breath in. Let it go. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. So grateful to be here this evening. I feel so much better, thank you. As I stated, it's been kind of an interesting road over the past 4 years, getting this Arizona Psychedelics off the ground. And last summer, Troy and I really wanted to make an effort, and we made a calling out to the whole community to ask community members to step forward and start bringing in ideas for subgroups or interests in the community that may be in need. And some of the things that we came up with were like a veterans group. We were very interested in hoping that someone would help us take the lead on something like that. And some other various groups like our welcoming committee, and that's what we have tonight with our lovely name tags, which really helps me to remember names with faces. So thank you for joining us tonight and participating with us, especially new people. And with that being said, one of the other subgroups that we organized is the Alliance Recovery Group. And it took us a while to actually kind of come up with this name and also the intentions behind this group. And the aim and what we were coming forward with as finding a need in the community has been around supporting community members around recovery and in a non-traditional way. Most people are very familiar, of course, with AA and NA programs, and those are very supportive and very helpful, especially in helping to shift urgent patterns of particularly substance abuse, right? And then now there's a lot of other groups, especially around codependency, food addictions, and things like that. And really that's part of the intention of this group, is to support anybody in any part of their recovery, whether that's codependency, substances, I don't know, technology, that could be an addiction. Working out, overworking out can also be an addiction. Counting calories and having your mind kind of take over that as well can be a form of addiction. So it's really just an open group, peer-to-peer support where none of us are clinical providers here as part of the leadership in this group. But what it was is we wanted particular members to step forward and take some type of a leadership role in a way that they identify with recovery in some aspect of their lives, and also in conjunction with psychedelics. And so even for me, I've come to psychedelics as part of my healing and recovering parts of myself in a way that I can become more whole, healthy, and healed. And addiction was one of those thorns in my side that pushed me into psychedelics and helping me to have a better awareness of why I was reaching for things outside of myself to make myself feel better. And so with that being said, I know why I wanted to be a big part of this group, because it's part of intergenerational trauma that's been showing up in my own family. It's even how I've chosen partners in the past. It's how I've shown up abusing myself in certain ways throughout my life, and working to reconcile and recover those parts of myself that maybe I've had a lot of shame or guilt around, and befriending those parts of myself and loving those harder parts of myself. So with that being said, I've taken a lot of time over the past 6-7 months to hopefully help nurture what I hope would be a big part of the Phoenix community as a whole, but for the Psychedelic Society community as well. And these are the three, I don't know why I want to say practitioners, but three facilitators, three, I don't know, community members that wanted to take a step forward and support those of us here in the community as a whole. And my intention tonight was just to bring more awareness around this new group and cultivating more membership at some of the meetings, sharing with our loved ones and our family members how potentially psychedelics can help us with addictions, especially going through a recovery process, and even the stigma around plant medicines as being drugs too, right? And that's a scary walk to walk too. Like, okay, I'm recovering from alcohol and other substances, and now I'm gonna start taking another substance that's mind-altering, like way mind-altering. How is that really gonna help me or heal me, and can I get addicted to those substances too? Are really valid questions, especially when in recovery. So the aim tonight is actually to hand the microphone over to these wonderful community members that have been such a beautiful part of the Arizona Psychedelic Society, and have actually taken a courageous step to show themselves in a way that shows tremendous leadership and an indomitable spirit to hold this kind of space for serious mental and emotional and physical imbalances that really can tear us apart from the inside out, and tear us apart at the family level, and then at the community level, and at a global level, especially when we start thinking about mass consumerism and why are we over consuming and over taking way too much than what we need from Mother Earth and Father Sky, and not giving back. And I love and I'm grateful that these three individuals are giving back. So I'm going to turn the floor over to them. Each one of them are going to share a little bit about their own recovery journey, and also in relationship to psychedelics, why they chose to step forward in this leadership position, and what they'd like to see for the community at large. So if you'll please continue to be present with us and join us in this conversation. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Justin Carpenter, lover of life, magic mushrooms too. Yeah. This group has been really great. It's something that when it was brought up several months ago, I just knew right away this was something that I needed to get involved in. Andrea asked us to answer 4 questions really for our discussion tonight. So I'm going to just start with that. And I'm going to kind of take the first 2 and kind of combine them a little bit. The first one was what brought us to plant medicine. And the second question is what's your personal connection to recovery? So I'm going to combine both of those. And guys, I could talk for an hour and a half on this tonight, but I'll try and keep it short and sweet so that we can all have a chance to talk. And so what brought me to plant medicine? I experimented with mushrooms and LSD as a teenager in the early 20s and that ended and life went on. And many years later, In the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005, I heard of ayahuasca from my old teacher, Stuart Wilde, and I was really intrigued with that. And I thought, man, I'm going to jump on board with that. But I didn't actively seek it out. I wasn't going to hop on a plane to Peru. It just wasn't in my plans at that time. So I just carried on with life, and I carried on with a lot of drinking and drugging and unproductive living, really, is what that time period was for me. And so anyway, from 2004-05, fast forward to 2011, in November of 2011, I found myself at a Thanksgiving dinner party in the western slope of Colorado, up in the mountains where I lived. And ayahuasca showed up at this dinner party. And 2 months later, I was sitting in my first ceremony 3 miles from my home in Colorado, partaking of this amazing medicine. And it transformed my life. There's just no question about it. And over the course of the next 3 years, I joined the community, and everything showed up. The ayahuasca, peyote, psilocybin mushrooms, MDMA, it all showed up. And I signed up for every opportunity I had to sit in ceremony. And I was in need of some serious healing at this time. And so now I'm going to backpedal to the first question, or the second question, about what's my connection to recovery. So recovery, so November of 2011, I found myself 7 months in sobriety from alcohol. And in June of that, earlier in that year, June 18th of 2011, I was driving to my daughter's wedding. I was in Colorado. I had a 6.5 hour drive to my daughter's wedding in Utah. And I got pulled over at 10:30 in the morning and got arrested for a DUI on my way to my daughter's wedding. And the thing is it wasn't my first DUI. It was my 7th DUI. Yeah, 7th DUI at 10:30 in the morning driving to my daughter's wedding. So, you know, you can just plug in the rest on that story, you know. I was pretty fucked up, and I had been for many, many years. I got my first, I started drinking at 12. I was taking hard liquor to school at 13. I was drinking daily by the time I was a senior in high school. I got my first DUI at 18, and my 7th DUI at 47, at 10:30 in the morning at my daughter's wedding. The cool part of that story is, though, I did get to my daughter's wedding. I was in this little shithole town. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was in a small town in southern Utah, and the cops were really cool. I was cool with the cops. By then, I'd figured out how to get arrested, you know, and that was not resist, you know. Take me in, right? I'm cool, right? So the cops were really cool with me, though. They arrested me at 10:30. They let me out of jail a little early. I said, hey, guys, my daughter's getting married at 3:30 this afternoon. They were cool. They let me out early, and I was an hour away. The jail was an hour away from where my daughter lived, but I got to the wedding at 3:15. It started at 3:30, and I was sober. So it was the coolest thing ever. And 3 days later, it was June 21st, 2011. That's the day I let alcohol go. And so since then, I've had 13 years of continuous freedom from alcohol and cannabis. I let both of them go together on the same day because I smoked as much weed as I drank, so I had to let them both go. So anyway, that happened in June. I'm 7 months free of alcohol in November. January of 2012, I start the plant medicine journey, and then 3 years of pretty intense plant medicine work, and I'm so grateful for all the plant medicines and the alternative synthetic medicines that are out there that are so amazing and so just life-changing and healing. And I'm on this path today that is just, it's nothing short of just miraculous compared to what I was 13 years ago. I just totally love life. You know, 13 years ago when I got that 7th DUI, I found AA. I started out my recovery in the 12-step programs, which were really great for me at the time. But I learned how to write a gratitude list back then. And this is in my first 2-3 months of sobriety after that 7th DUI. I had one thing on that gratitude list. It wasn't my 2 children. It wasn't my job. It wasn't my car. It wasn't my beautiful apartment in the mountains of Colorado. It was the only thing. I was just grateful for one thing in this life, and it was my dog. And It was a dog, yeah. The dog saved me, I think. I think she did. But anyway, I'm on another dog now, and this one's just as fun. This is great, and it's just special. I should have brought her tonight, but I didn't think I'd talk about her here. So, but anyway, so I learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and I'm just so happy for the plant medicine, and so happy to be in recovery. And life today is just amazing, and thanks to Troy and Andrea for creating this community. And I found my home here amongst you Arizona people. I have my Colorado people too, and I love those guys just as much. But this is really fun here, and what I hope to see this group of ours grow. I hope we will grow, and we will add more meetings as this thing unfolds and blossoms in that. And the other question was, what's my calling here? And as part of offering to be a part of the recovery committee. And my life has just transformed so many times in recovery, and I've recreated my life now. It's my 4th time. And so why this is so special to me to be here today is the next phase of my life is I'm launching a life coaching practice next month. General life and health coaching with an emphasis on spirituality and recovery. And I'm in fact creating my own signature recovery program. And I describe it as a non-12-step, non-faith-based program that's centered around discovering your why underneath the behaviors. So it's literally life coaching for people who are seeking freedom from dependency. And not just substances, but just fucking crazy ass life experiences, whatever it might be. Yeah, because we're all here recovering from life on some way, somehow. But I literally teach people how to recreate their lives and experience a total transformation and in recovery. So that's a part of what I do on the side, and I'm excited to launch that program officially next month, April 11th. But trying to think if I left out a question here. Let's see. I think I covered it. All right, nice. Yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to talk to you. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, Justin. So what brought me to plant medicine? So my first journey was less than a year ago. And so I'm still very new to the community and very new to plant medicine and learning on all of those things. I had been sober from alcohol at that point for about 2 years, and I had muddled my way through that with podcasts and audiobooks and smart recovery meetings and reading and journaling and therapy and medications and all of those kinds of things. And leading up to about a year ago, I had a series of pretty stressful, traumatic things happen in my life. And I had been trying to taper off of the medication, and I got stuck in this loop within the healthcare system, and I just couldn't. I was trying to get the doctor to be able to taper off medication, but then she was out on maternity leave, and then my doctor that I had for the replacement doctor wasn't willing to make that decision, and then my doctor left, and then the company ran out of ESSER funds from COVID, and they disbanded all of that, and so all of those things, it just went on and on and on. And I was like, all I'm trying to do is get better and heal myself. And so I got to the point where finally I was just like, I'm gonna taper off myself, I'm gonna move past this, because it just felt like I wasn't myself. I was sober, which is great, and I was very grateful. In every moment that was the big things that I had dealt with leading up to a year ago, I was so grateful to be sober, like hands down. But I wasn't fully myself, and so I wanted to get off the medication, and I started to look for alternatives. And the first place I looked was ketamine. And so I put it out there on social media to kind of figure out, like, who else is doing this? Who else is talking about this? Where can I get information? And a good friend, a dog park friend from like 20 years ago, sent me a private message, and he's like, I've got the thing for you. Let me tell you all about it. And I said, all right, Kirk, you got it. And so we connected pretty quickly, and he talked to me about mushrooms, and I was like, okay. But it was all very secretive. And that, I think for me, was really hard, because I wanted to make sure that this was the right choice, that this wasn't something else I was going to become dependent on. And I wanted to make sure that whoever I was finding online wasn't gonna scam me, or whoever I was finding online wasn't a DEA agent and gonna arrest me, or, like, I looked through so much research and tried to like put all these feelers on all these places to find that it was safe to do these things, and to find a safe path with plant medicine. And I did. I found a safe place to land, and then through that I began to realize that there are very safe communities across the country that you can connect with virtually. And then I was like, yeah, but I want a community here in person. And then I found Arizona Psychedelic Society, and so that's how I got here. And I went to a lot of events that I saw on Meetup, and a lot of them were like the breath work and the integration circle, and some of those different experiences, and just being there and being a part of those experiences within a community, I felt a lot of healing in that, and it really was a relief for me that it doesn't have to be just the consumption of plant medicine, right? It's all these other things integrating together. And the first meeting I came here to Meraki was actually the meeting where you guys were talking about committees. What is the interest in these committees? So I showed up and I was like, I'm in the right place. One of the other communities I had been in is called Psychedelic Recovery. So it was a very specific meeting every single Wednesday that really talked about being sober, but also integrating psychedelics into your sobriety and into your healing, and how to do all of that. And when I was in that space, I felt like I belong here. I was around people who have a very similar collective agreement about like how to just interact and how to value ourselves and value one another. And when I came into this space, I felt that too. And when I came back, I felt that space. I felt that same feeling here as well. So that's what brought me to psychedelics. My connection to recovery is that I am sober from alcohol. I'm also trying to heal from dependency on, unhealthy dependency on relationship. And then there's another part of me is that I want to make sure that people feel they land in that safe spot faster than I did. I feel like I did it pretty quick, but I want to help break away some of the stigma around all of this and say like, it's just that easy. It really is. And so I think that's part of one of my callings to be here, is to help open that door for other folks so that they can see how easy it is and how healing it is, and that it's good things, and it's good people, and it's good community. Through getting on this committee, there was another opportunity too for Plant Ally Recovery, which is the meetings I was attending on a regular basis. They offered an opportunity for guide trading, and so I asked for Kelia from Plant Ally Recovery to meet with Andrea so that they could talk about kind of vetting each other and vetting the training, and seeing like how could we bring another organization within here, another community resource into Arizona Psychedelic Society. And so I've got the support from Arizona Psychedelic Society to go through that, and I've been through that, and I'm trying to finish up the very last parts of that. So that's also another resource that we're bringing here into the community that is really amazing. And if anybody wants information about that, please let me know. And really what I foresee in this group is one of the first things is I want us to continue to have fun and really enjoy each other and build community, because I think we've gotten to do that quite a bit. I foresee more people, other folks sitting on this panel, maybe in 6 months, because they've decided that they want to share their leadership skills and share their experiences with all of you. I have hope that we have meetings on a weekly basis, because there's the need there and there is the support within the community that steps up and says, I can come and I can help and I can commit to more time and energy, because there's enough folks that are showing up on a weekly basis that are in need of those things. And I think those are all my questions, my answers.
Okay, so my name's Carrie. I was almost going to tell you like my standard work speech of who I am, so I don't need to do that. Put on a different hat here. Oh my goodness, this is such a loaded question. I think like Justin said, I could probably talk for a really long time. I'm going to say not what brought me to plant medicine, but what brought me to psychedelics. I think like a lot of people, for me personally, I had a very traumatic childhood, and I turned to all sorts of things to cope with that as a child growing up. Started around the age 8 with an eating disorder, very restrictive anorexic type behaviors. I would say by like 12 or 13, I was drinking and smoking a lot of weed, LSD, all sorts of things, and I was not doing anything mindfully. It was all very much in the premise of just numbing myself out. Somehow I managed to get myself clean from substances for the most part. The eating disorder stuck with me throughout most of my life until a few years ago. In 2019, very weird events, I met my birth mom, and she happened to be a psychedelic assisted therapist, a licensed professional counselor that chose to use psychedelics also in her practice. And so through meeting her, she exposed me to using these medicines in a very mindful, therapeutic way. And for me personally, it was definitely something that literally saved my life. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't have the healing. My first journey was a ketamine journey. And again, I was extremely depressed, very suicidal. And so that immediately relieved those symptoms. Through that initial door opening of using psychedelics in a therapeutic manner, changed the course of my life. I'm a nurse practitioner, very much was in the Western medicine model. And I changed my direction, I changed my path. Since then I've done way too much schooling and classes that might have taken me out of what the real purpose of psychedelics are, but they gave me a great foundation, lots of knowledge and information, brought me into this world. Got hooked up a little bit with the Arizona Psychedelic Society, came to a couple meetup events, and then was here also that fateful day. And recovery spoke to me, not just for my personal recovery, but I also have 2 children with significant substance use disorders. One of them, who I thought would never find any type of sobriety, is 6 months sober. The other one completely in recovery. So it's a very personal thing for me. It's deeply rooted in my family, and I guess just such a personal experience for me, and very meaningful. So to have this opportunity, I was super grateful. Yeah, and I am obviously in recovery from my eating disorder. And I can't say that I'm completely sober, because I do use medicines, but in what I consider a very therapeutic way, so much to the point that sometimes I'm scared to death to have another ceremony or journey, because I'm worried about what's going to come up next time or what it's going to be like. But every single time, it's always been super powerful, super meaningful, and very healing to me. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say on that. What led me to wanting to take on this leadership position? I think that's kind of the same thing, just feeling called, really called that this is something that I feel like I might be able to make an impact and help serve. And knowing personally what it's like to not only live with some type of substance use disorder or alcohol use disorder or other disorders, but also what it's like to have healing from those. And so feeling like that personal connection, I might be able to somehow help other people along this path. What I'd like to see for this group, so much. We started, I think, as a group of like 6 or 7 of us, and we're down to 4 essentially, 3, 4. So 3. 3.5. Just, I would like to see it grow, not just for those of us that are facilitating, but also for the people that are coming to our groups. Started out very small. I think we at least always had one person besides our facilitators, and we had our biggest turnout on Sunday, this last Sunday. And so I feel like we're finally starting to get some momentum and get some traction in the community, and people are hopefully talking to each other. I think, Carla, you said something that made me think of our own individual paths along this life, and that it's my true belief that we don't heal in isolation, we heal in community. And so having these groups of people, maybe not with identical paths or stories, because none of us have those, but that we have something shared in common with needing to recover from something. And I think that's a pretty universal thing, regardless of who we are. So it's just been really nice. Now I kind of feel like I'm rambling, but I think I've answered all of the questions, and
Yeah, I want the mic back for a minute.
all right, it's Justin's turn.
Hey, thanks, you guys. Yeah, a couple things came to me while I was listening to these fabulous ladies talk about our group here, and the importance in recovery of being able to have an open, safe container where whatever you share is met with non-judgment. And that is just so fucking powerful in terms of healing. For the first time, I shared the truth of my healing story in the Plant Allied Recovery online meeting that Carla introduced me to. And I think I cried. Were you on that? I don't think you were on, I mean, I don't know if you were on that meeting or not, but the first time I was on that meeting, I shared the truth that, because I found ayahuasca 7 months into my sobriety, and I was attending AA, but I couldn't say anything about that, the truth. And man, let me tell you what, I was lit up with this plant medicine, and my life was just rapidly changing, and healing that was coming was just incredible. I'd come back from a weekend ayahuasca ceremony, and people would just look at me, and they'd go, what the? They would just see the difference in my being, my energy. It was different. And I'd just say, yeah, just have a great weekend, But back in the AA meetings, in the AA meetings, of course, I couldn't say anything. So 13 years later, I'm 13 years alcohol and cannabis free, and I never got to share the truth that plant medicine, these psychedelic medicines, gave me the healing that I needed, that I couldn't find working with a sponsor or going to a concept meeting. It was powerful to say, yeah, I'm grateful to the plant medicine for bringing me the recovery and the healing that I needed. This body, this soul needed some serious healing. And the plant medicine brought that to me. So for this space that we have is whatever it is you're healing from, or the trauma, it doesn't really matter. What it is that you are here to work on is met in a really safe, non-judgmental space. And whether you're working with psychedelics, whether you're working with cannabis, if it's tobacco, if it's whatever, it doesn't really matter. If you're still using.
I have a question. So I really appreciate what all you guys have shared and your journeys and the power of that and your willingness to serve this way. What if you have someone who comes to you who musters up the courage to make contact, but they're really cynical. You know, it's just like, this isn't good, you know, they're more open because there's the plant medicine ingredient, but like, they're not open to anything like AA or anything like that. You just go to those meetings and you just learn how many times people fail, and you know, there's all these things, and then they're shrouded in their own shame. How do you kind of hook them? What do you say to them? I'm just curious, to make them feel safe. I think safe is, and not judged. Those two things, safe and not judged. They're probably the same thing, but my experience with people who struggle with different types of addiction is they don't feel safe, and depending on how deep their addiction is gone, they don't feel the judgment is just,
It's debilitating.
Right.
yeah.
The judgment, the self-judgment.
It just drives them back into the addiction. I mean, it just is a cycle that goes on and on, so.
I would just tell them that they're loved and that they're supported, and that, my gosh, life is crazy and we have all made mistakes, and so what if we spent 35 years drinking and drugging and we're told fuck up, I teach, what I like to work on and acknowledge is that self-acceptance, and that it's okay to make a mistake. We're human beings, we're not perfect. And whatever it is that you experience, and a lot of people, it's not what they chose to do. They had shit done to them, and it wasn't their choice. And that's often even a bigger challenge to sit with.
Yeah, I hear the
in terms of that.
self-condemnation is huge. I mean,
And yeah, so I think it's just about support. It's all about the love. That's what I practice. It's all about the love. It's just about it.
So-
And that you can help.
I don't know if any of you know this, but I was a high school teacher for a very long time. So I'm not unfamiliar with folks that
So you got judged a lot, is what you're saying. I get it.
who like to resist my message. I taught Algebra 1 for freshmen, so.
Oh.
we try.
I think ultimately, like, understanding and recognizing somebody and where they're at, and meeting them where they are, and giving them acknowledgement that it's okay to be where you are, and to offer guidance or offer a personal experience myself. Like, there were many times where I got in the car and I was sober. I was sober enough. I had not drank, but I was so ready to stop drinking. I was so ready to be over all of this. And AA wasn't an option, and I had gone through the 1,000 options in my brain. And I went to the recovery center, the detox recovery center that was in the neighborhood. And I drove there and I sat in my parking lot, and I got out of the car and I got halfway to the door and I turned around and I went back. And I did that multiple times. There are other things too where I was in that very similar position of just pure mental mutilation, right? And so I would just share that story. I would share as much as somebody's willing to hear about my personal journey and being in that place, and the little tiny things that I had to put together for myself and that I had to allow to happen before I could learn to get past that cynicism. And if I wasn't the answer and what I have to share isn't, then I would offer somebody else within our group I think that might be a better match. And I also would invite them, maybe they're not ready to come and sit in Recovery Alliance with us, but maybe they're interested in being here on Monday, and they're interested in getting to know you, or maybe they want to do drum circle on Saturday, or they want to build a connection somewhere else in the community so that they can begin to gain some semblance of self-confidence and acceptance, or releasing some of that self-judgment.
Safety.
Right. And so it doesn't have to be all in your face all at once, and it's meeting somebody where they're at and helping them figure out that path, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be right to us, right, or right to this group. It can be a variety of different things, different connections and different series that would work for somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps answer
No,
questions.
it does. I appreciate the blurbs that are on Meetup and stuff, like because it doesn't, you don't require sobriety. So, I mean, I'm obviously thinking of someone, but it's not that sobriety isn't something that I think would be hoped for, but sobriety is something that is like, shit.
Oh,
You know, I just don't think it's gonna happen.
I think it's also important to note that this is a peer-to-peer recovery group. This is not a recovery program. It is peers supporting peers, and we're building a community. So that level of entering a recovery program, that's not part of what we're doing at all. We're peers supporting each other. So I appreciate and think it's amazing that you're willing to send somebody, recommend this group, but just remember that we are not like,
We're not Smart Recovery, we're
Yeah,
not AA,
we're-
we're not Sisters,
Yeah.
Sober Sisters, we're
And
not.
I want to be very careful because I'm talking about this person like, in my journey with plant medicine, I have my own stuff. I mean, I'm as fucked up as anyone. It's just not stuff that I'm willing to stand up there and talk about right now.
Yeah.
It may not be a substance, but there's certainly all this stuff, and gradually my journey with the medicine is helping me to be more honest with myself, and with that honesty, not making such a big deal out of it, if that makes a sense. It brings it more normalizing it, like it's part of me, my journey, my humanity. It's not a letter that I wear or a group that I belong to. So I want to be careful not to talk about someone that I care very dearly for because she has some addictions, and not acknowledge my own brokenness, my own humanity, and my own healing. So I think that's important, and that's what I like about this group. It's everyone here. You can be completely honest with the people here, and it's okay.
I would say, John, like one of the most important things that we've lost as a whole society is this whole community that helps each other. I mean, we all live these separate lives. We go to work, we have our work friends. We go to the gym, we have some gym friends, but we're separated a lot of the time. And I think recovery is a very important, like if you have an addiction, you have a problem that you're trying to address, you need the support of people around you who may understand what you're going through. And that's the most important thing with peer-to-peer help like this. You don't need one guy that, I have a PhD, so I can tell you exactly what to do. That's not gonna help you. What's gonna help you is like everyone around you, surrounding you with love and understanding and saying, look, I understand, I've gone through this too, and we're gonna get through this together. That's the most powerful thing you can do. And as Carla knows as a teacher, some kids, you could tell them the thing 100 times, they're not gonna get it, but then Bob says, oh, just do this, and they're like, oh, I get it now. And you're like, what the fuck, man? Like, everybody learns a little differently, you know what I mean? So it's important to have many people around you that can help you with those messages, because the more you hear it, the more you might understand it.
So I have a question. I'm curious, any of you want to share? I can just talk about it, it's fine. Carla, you kind of mentioned a little bit about your journey leading up to making that decision. You just kind of shared your story, and it was like, okay, I made this decision 5 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, and then here's my journey from that point on. Like, that's awesome, but I'm wondering for people who might not have made that decision yet, who are struggling with that, like, I'm guessing it didn't look like non-sobriety, all of a sudden change, and then full sobriety, right? Like, probably there was some turbulence getting to that. I made that decision and now I'm sober going forward. So I'm wondering if any of you are willing to share briefly, right? Not a 10-minute, all the details, but just to bring that element out that, like, for some people it might just be I made that decision one day and I never looked back, but I'm guessing for a lot of people it's not that clean cut.
Okay, so I want to make sure the decision to abstain from alcohol and not the decision to start plant medicine. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I struggled with alcohol at I think maybe 17. I had my first DUI at age 20. I had an extreme DUI within a couple of years after that, because I worked 90 hours a week and went to school full time, and so I did everything too much. Or then I would just shift from working to over drinking or all of these different things. And then there were plenty of times where I was like, this is court-ordered meetings that I have to sit in here now, and so I guess I won't drink during this time. And then there were times where I'd be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, I can go back, and then it would escalate, and I think that's very common with any behavior that we just become dependent on. Is it starts really little and then it gets bigger and then it just snowballs. I then had gotten sober, I think, for several years. I trained and ran a couple half marathons, and then I got into a relationship where there was partying all the time, and it started off very little and it wasn't that a big deal, but then over years and years and years it became daily for me, and it was daily because I was coping with the unhealthy relationship that I was in, because I didn't have what it took to recognize what was going on and to walk away. So I was just numbing myself up for years, and that went on probably for about 7 or 8 years, where I was, I would stop and take breaks along the way because I would recognize this is not good, I don't feel good, I'm not in a good place, I'm not in a good headspace. But I didn't have like peer support. I was hiding that I was getting sober. I was hiding that I wasn't drinking. And it really got out of hand, and there were plenty of times where I would stop for a little while, and then it would just kind of, I'd be like, oh fuck it, I can't fight this anymore. And there were times where I think what really ended up helping me, it was like these little tiny steps along the way where I was making small things that worked for me, because I couldn't commit to AA and I couldn't commit to checking myself in for 30 days. I couldn't commit to any of those big, over-the-top, very highly visible activities to get sober, but I knew I needed to do something. So there was little things. I went to primary care and I said, hey, look, this is where I'm at and this is what's going on. Like, I was in a place where I could be honest. And then I went to a therapist and I'm like, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm dealing with. And then I got into smart recovery. And so through that process that I continued to just little tiny things, and then to like actually get off of the alcohol. I used an in-home IV nurse to come in to help counteract the dehydration that I was experiencing and the withdrawal symptoms that I was experiencing. And they had a medication called NAD, which actually it helps the cells recover pretty quickly to help push you past the withdrawal symptoms in a fairly short amount of time. And then from there, and I had done that a couple of times and then messed up and kind of went back to the alcohol. But by the time I got to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm done, I had finally put enough pieces in place and shared enough people, that I had enough safe spots that I could be honest about what I was doing for myself. And then I got into routines that helped make me avoid those things and lower my anxiety and those kinds of things, so before I was not white knuckling it. Sorry, I hope that wasn't 10 minutes.
Thank you.
I'll say I'm not there yet. I still struggle, I still backslide and find my way back. Every journey that I do provides a little more healing. So it's not this clear, defined thing. It's this process of, it's a labyrinth. Sometimes I think I'm getting close and shit, I'm really far away again, and then sometimes I'm closer again. So it's this continual journey, this continual process. And again, every ceremony that I sit in, every journey that I complete, I find a new piece of me, and I'm able to deal with the things that I wasn't able to deal with I can deal with it in a healthy way versus the things that were very damaging to my life and to me physically and personally.
Yeah, I have a little, I'll just share this to answer Troy's question on that. My transition period from putting the bottle down to being comfortable. And what I'm hearing here, what's so cool is that what I'm hearing is that everybody's story here, every person in this room, and special, and your story is none like anybody else's, and we all have our own path, and our paths are all a little bit different, and we just find what works for us as individuals, and that's all that matters. What works for you or you doesn't even matter. What works for you, John, and your friend, find out what works for that person is the only thing that really matters, and it's not clear cut or textbook or anything. It's just you just take it one day at a time and surrender and try something new. That's what it's about. But I didn't have any intention of getting sober. I got that 7th DUI. The funny thing is I got the 6th DUI a month before in Aspen, Colorado, where I lived. So I got a DUI in June or in May, and then the 7th one in June, and I'm fucked. I'm really fucked, right? I got 6th and 7th together, right? So I come back from Utah with the 7th DUI on Monday morning, and I had to be in court on Tuesday morning in Aspen, Colorado for the DUI that I got the month before, which was Tuesday morning, June 21st, 2011. That happens to be my sobriety day. I didn't plan on that. I didn't say fuck it, and I did dump all my alcohol and flushed all my weed and pills and shit down the toilet Tuesday morning before I drove up the hill to the courthouse in Aspen. Because I'm in bad shape, right? I mean, I'm scared straight, right? I was scared straight. That's what kept me sober. So anyway, that was Tuesday. That's my sobriety date. I didn't drink that day. I went to court. The judge said, Mr. Carpenter, you better get to an AA meeting quick. Looking at your rap sheet. I've been arrested 18 times in my life. 7 DUIs, assault and battery, public intoxication, you name it. I was a mess. So I don't have any judgment for anybody. You can't tell me anything, any craziness. I'm an insanity expert. I can handle all kinds of insanity, and I mean it. I mean, nothing you say is gonna ground me, because shoot, I lived it, and I'm blessed that I came out on the other side, and I'm here talking with you guys and hanging with all you lovely people. I'm so blessed. But yeah, I didn't intend to get sober. That's the day I let it go. But I did get to my first AA meeting 2 days after that on a Thursday. It was a men's meeting in Carbondale at 7 o'clock. I sat there, and anyway, it was great. I started to recover then, but I didn't really know. I didn't say I'm letting it go. I'm quitting. I'm giving it up. It didn't happen like that for me. I was so scared that I was going to prison for getting 7 DUIs. So I just kind of stayed sober one day at a time. Because I was really, really scared, so I did stay sober, and I did dive in and do the work. I did what they handed me a big book, I read it, I kept going to meetings. But I'll tell you, it took about 90 days, Troy. There was about 90 days, I remember the day, this was 13 years ago, and I was standing outside this building talking to 2 guys, and I remember the day, I went, man, this sobriety thing is really fucking pretty cool. I'm about 90 days sober. And I mean it. Yeah, I was like, man, this is all right. I like it. And it was cool because I was just getting ready to go to jail because I was getting sentenced for the DUI and all that. And it wasn't too bad though, really. I got work release in Pitkin County, Colorado, which is Aspen. I got to go to jail and walk 2 blocks to the grocery store to work every day for 90 days. So it wasn't too bad. I only missed 1 day of work over the whole deal. I told my daughter the next year, June the following year, I gave my daughter a call, or she called me on Father's Day it was, and I told her the truth of that day, and I hadn't told her that I got a DUI that day. My mom lied for me. My mom said I had car trouble, and that's why I was late for the wedding. But I told her a year later that I was in fact sober, and I'd already started the plant medicine journey, and I was just feeling, a lot better. I'll just say that. So, I'll end on that.
That's great.
Thank you,
Do you have a
Justin.
question, Gary?
Gary?
Yeah, I don't need to, I don't think. I think what you guys are doing is unbelievably important, and pretty much, I mean, people that are in the group or outside the group, I mentioned you guys to them. I think that the benefit of psychedelics, I wasn't aware of it until I joined this group, and I think it can change the world. And my question is, can you go over what the format of your meetings are?
Carrie, why don't you cover that one? I just show up and.
Well, first I'll say that we meet the first Tuesday of every month on Zoom. And then the third.
What time, Carrie, what time?
6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. And then the third Sunday of every month, we're at Granada Park right now, meeting at 11. I think we're probably riding the wave of whether that's gonna be too hot really quickly, but for right now, we're still planning on it next month for sure. To be determined if we might move it to 10 a.m. instead of 11, just for heat purposes. So the format of the group is really that we just introduce whoever is facilitating very briefly, just so the people that are new know who we are. We go over, I think it's what's posted on Meetup of like what the recovery group is essentially for, basically that we're peer-to-peer. You know, sobriety isn't a requirement. Plant medicine use is actually, or psychedelic use is not a requirement either. And there's no criteria on what you have to meet as far as what you're in recovery for. And then we kind of have tossed around whether we'll have a question or a topic. So far we haven't needed to do that. Things have just happened really organically, of just sharing. Whoever wants to talk about their journey to recovery or their journey not to recovery, if it's alcohol, substances, relationships, eating disorders, food, codependency, sugar. I don't think we've had, I think we've had all number of things. And then we do also start with like some type of grounding exercise, and then we after our group is done, we have a closing thing, just so that there's an official start and official end. And then if people want, usually there's that little bit of gathering time afterwards so people can have time to connect. So it's pretty informal. There isn't like a set agenda of who's speaking or what topic. I think I covered
And I got
that.
a follow up on that. If somebody's dealing with a traumatic event, would this be a good group for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there are definitely those of us that have had traumatic events, and hence the need for recovery. Yeah.
Right, depression, anxiety, morbid depression. I'm an expert on morbid depression. I've thought of killing myself like 15,000 different ways, and I've got through that. The mushrooms, 4 years ago. Real quick, I just want to finish with one thing before I'm not going to tell that story. But using psychedelics in recovery, that was brought up. It's come up a couple times tonight. My personal experience, no addictive tendencies whatsoever in any of the psychedelics that I've used in my recovery. And alcohol was my drug of choice. Cannabis was a close number 2. Opioids, cocaine, crystal meth were all kind of all interwoven in there. But in the 13 years that I've been alcohol and cannabis free, the psychedelics have been plentiful, and I feel no addictive draw to any of them. One period of time, I had 5 or 6 ounces of mushrooms in my refrigerator. Just carried them around with me every place I moved to. I've been kind of a drifter. I've lived in 9 states and moved around a bit. But I went 8 years. Mushrooms just sat in my fridge. 8 years, didn't touch them. And then 4 years ago, I had a serious bout of depression. And man, thought I was cured of all that, but no, I wasn't. I called the suicide hotline one day 4 years ago, and anyway, make a long story short, a friend suggested microdosing mushrooms, and here I've got 6 ounces of mushrooms in my fridge. I'm not gonna fuck around with microdosing, right? I'm gonna take a 5, 6, 7 gram journey, right? But the friend suggested, I said, okay, I'll try. Man, let me tell you what, I microdosed, I experimented with dosage and frequency and that, but let me tell you what, 4 months of microdosing, life-changing. So I, again, just grateful for the plants. So that's it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I can ask a question. Yeah, so my question mostly is like, so, yeah, you guys had some journeys, they're very inspiring that you guys could like get over that, but like most people well, I'm talking personally for me, we never, like, I've always flirted with the edge, I never jumped over. but like when you're still stuck on the edge, it gets a bit frustrating. So is this group like good enough when you're like you just need to push to a right place? You know, you just need an outside perspective, just for someone to tell you like, yeah, you're too much in your head, go off the cliff. So is this group like good enough for that? Because yeah, to be honest, like yeah, I'm not gonna like talk about it right now, but like yeah. Like for me personally, there has been some issues I've been struggling with. I've never gone off the edge, but I'm like really close to it all the time. And I just need someone to like, just jump off and see what happens.
Yeah, we're here for you. I think Carla suggested some great ways to dive in and test the water, get your feet a little bit wet.
Yeah, I
and,
just need some guidance, that's it.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone I can talk to.
Sounds great. I'll talk to you afterwards. You bet. All right, thanks.
You're gonna answer that?
I was just gonna say, you're welcome to come and sit in our Recovery Alliance circle and see if that is
Yeah, it's
truly
my
what
first
you're
time,
looking
that's why I'm
for.
asking.
Yeah, we would love to have you there.
Yeah, thank you.
And if it doesn't meet your need, then you'll know once you're there,
Oh,
but
listen
there's a.
to you guys, I think it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to jump off the edge, man. You can just dip a toe. Just dip a toe. It's okay.
And then I feel like I have I'm feeling this sense of social responsibility right now on the addiction potential, just because I did speak to my personal experience with ketamine. And I will say that ketamine definitely has a risk for addiction. And so me personally, sitting on a committee for Recovery Alliance, I feel like it's my obligation, and also my medical provider and me is saying that it is important to note that ketamine is addictive, and also MDMA has an addictive property to it. Ketamine doesn't cause physical addiction, but it causes psychological addiction. MDMA can cause both. So there's no evidence that psilocybin, LSD, DMT, there's no evidence that those things cause addiction, physical or psychological, but I just feel like because we're this Recovery Alliance that I have to speak those words out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
And I think through that is we have these conversations, and it's not just about us speaking about our experiences, but it's also talking about additional resources that are in the community. So each one of us has access different resources, different practitioners, different things that we need. And I think that's something else that we would like to be able to do within this group, is we want to build a stronger resource list for folks to be able to know where to go when you're looking for something specific. Trusted practitioner, trusted social groups, different things like that as well. And so that's another thing that comes from within the group when we're having conversations. It's like, well, I had this experience with this person and it was good, or I had this experience with this person and I wouldn't recommend for you to go into that space with that person. So we also do that within the group, which becomes, it comes very naturally, so it helps us to create more safe pathways to these places that you want to get into. So that's another thing that does organically come from our group as well.
So probably not everyone in here identifies as someone who's in recovery or needs to be in recovery or anything like that, right? I think it's an individual choice that people have and all of that. And so for someone who might not identify as that, or at least not at this moment in time or something, anything that you guys can share around how they can still be of support for someone who might be, John mentioned, right? I'll use as an example, like, hey, I have this friend who I think is struggling, or they'd come and talk to me about it or whatever, both as a part of the APS community and this particular alliance group, but also, drawing on your guys' experiences of going through your own recovery and saying, I'm sure you had people alongside you who would have said, hey, I'm not struggling with X, Y, or Z, but I love you and I want to support you. What kind of tips, tricks, suggestions do you guys have for someone who feels like they fall into that category?
Let's take that one.
I'll just briefly say, again, we don't heal in isolation, we heal in community. My personal experience is that I love to isolate and sometimes get high, sometimes get drunk, whatever. So just knowing that somebody will invite me in, and there's a common term of reach out if you need something. would never reach out. So if you invite me in, and so that would be something that was helpful for me. I would also say refer people to a Recovery Alliance meeting. I'm sure there's lots of others.
Or even things not to do, like, you know, it sounds good from the outside to do X, but really when it's not, you know, anything of that nature too, so if that comes up.
The first thing that came to my mind is what to do. Don't judge them, you know. And I know that sounds so easy, but it's so easy for us to be like, well, just stop drinking, or have you gone to AA, or like, and we try to create all these suggestions, right? And it's not necessarily coming from a place of judgment, but it feels very much so that way when it's heard by the other person. And so I think learning to just sit and listen, and invite folks to be around, and their whole world doesn't have to be about their addiction or whatever it doesn't have to be that. The conversation doesn't have to be around that. They're a whole human being that has all these really other amazing things, and it's really important to connect with them on these other levels. It's not just about this part that they really fucking hate a lot right now, and they don't necessarily want to talk about it. And so create that space where you recognize the other parts of them that are a human being. I think that's what I got.
Yeah, I don't know sure if I heard the question fully. I'm a little hard of hearing, but it was about if I'm not have any addiction problems, but I know somebody is, so I want to come to the meeting so that I can learn something to help my friend. Is that what you said?
Just someone who identifies as what you identified. Any wisdom you guys can share for that individual to support?
Okay. I think it's important. Like, if you know somebody, you're talking to somebody, you have a friend or family member who is struggling with substances or trauma or whatever that they're struggling with, it kind of helps. I found that it helps to speak to somebody who has walked down that road and experienced that. If you've never been addicted to alcohol and you have a family member who's totally messed up on alcohol, you're the wrong person to talk to about that. And not that it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that it's more helpful to speak to somebody who has had experience with that, because there's a certain level of total just honoring that person and totally no judgment with whatever they're going through or whatever they're experiencing, and there's a lot of pain involved in that too. And I like to remind people that I believe that as human beings we're made of source itself, that we're already whole and complete already. So looking outside for healing and that is really, we might need the medicine, but we're already whole inside. And so what's happened is we've been fractured and we've been damaged along the way. The trauma and the experiences, the childhood, the life experiences have shifted our way of thinking and our belief system, so that we're not really thinking truth. And so we have a belief system that is actually, not real. And so, but we think it's our truth. And so, just helping somebody come to that place of understanding that we're already whole within, and that the journey, the healing journey, is we're all on this journey. We're all on the train, and we're trying to get there and find that peace and happiness within, and it's there, and yeah.
I think if anything, psychedelics have shown us all at some point, if we're familiar with them, that none of us are any different from any of the others.
Yeah.
We're all the same. We're all the same person, essentially,
We're saying the difference.
just living through a different lens. And then these substances that come into our path, we're set up for failure because our brains are hardwired to want these things. And some people get hooked on them. That's not a reason to judge someone. That's not a reason. That stigma needs to be broken. We need to accept these people as they're just another me that just went this way instead of that way. And let me help myself, right? We all should help ourselves. That's what it's all about. and accepting that we're all flawed, but we're all perfect.
And not trying to fix. Like
Yeah.
I think oftentimes that's what a family member or loved one wants to do is they want to help you. I want to fix you. What can I do to help you fix yourself? And I think that creates far more space,
Right.
far more barrier between you and that person that you love. About how do we fix this? Like let that go. Like I said before,
Especially
like
it's
build
decades.
around the rest of who they are as a human, right? And let them let that part out when they're ready, or connect them with somebody who has a similar traumatic experience or similar addiction or those kinds of things. And you connect with them in those other areas that are lighter and healthier, and invite them. And it's okay if they say no, invite them again until they say yes.
Just, show up with love and kindness.
There you go.
Okay, I have another support group you need one for family members. Because
There's no reason that a family member can't come to a Recovery Alliance meeting.
And I think that's part of the intention with the
Maybe
group,
that's-
right? And I like the reminder that sometimes actually it's the family member or the loved one that needs just as much of support around a recovery of actually trying to help others recover. And I had a similar experience with the loved one where constantly trying to give me suggestions and recommendations of what I should be doing in my healing journey. It was really a top-down energy, as if I don't have my own power, I don't have my own wisdom. And what I love about this group is that the more people that can show up and come with their own healing story, it gives each individual the opportunity to connect with somebody in the community that they resonate with, that they can feel safe in order to be more vulnerable. And it doesn't have to be the facilitators. The facilitators are just holding the group for community members to connect and find what feels safe within yourself and any one of somebody's stories, somebody's share that you can really resonate with, and you have that side conversation. You build that relationship, whatever way feels safe, but that's the opportunity for the group, is to provide a potential connection somewhere and in. And even for us that have a loved one that is dealing and struggling, it's helpful. I went to AA meetings because my partner was an alcoholic, and I'm like, well, what does this mean? I want to know what it feels like to go to an AA meeting. It's one thing to tell somebody to go to an AA meeting. I don't know what it feels like to go to an AA meeting. So I sat in AA meetings too, because I needed to find empathy and compassion. I needed to see where can I meet him at, or so that was part of my work on the other end of having loved ones that were going through recovery too, is trying to create meeting each other where we're at. And I love the part, Carla, of like our individuals, we have so many other parts to ourselves. It's not just the addiction, right? Can we nurture those other parts and build up that self-esteem and that self-confidence to know that we have the power and the capability to heal ourselves.
And I think it's definitely family members, friends, things like that, definitely come and experience it and share your experience, because somebody comes into a group and says, I don't know, and I'm curious, and I want to know more. Like I think that helps build connection. I myself lost my brother to a drug overdose, and while I was on my path of trying to be sober from alcohol, I was watching what he was going through, and I was trying to figure out, how do I show up for him without being high and mighty about where I'm at, because I was able to identify with him better, because now I'm like, now I get it. Now I get the depths of the places that he's been. And now I have some of that perspective of, I wish I had some of these skills and some of this community 3 years ago, 2 years ago, because I would have pulled him into this community like that. And I didn't have the confidence to pull him into the Smart Recovery community that I was in, because it wasn't that big and it wasn't that strong for me to have that confidence to pull him in. But I would have done that in an instant if I had this community around me when he was still alive and he was struggling.
Any questions? Going once, going twice. Let's give these guys a big round of applause.
Thank you guys all for sharing vulnerably your stories and for also participating in this group, right? For being willing to come alongside others in the community. That's what we're all about. So appreciate each one of you guys. Just wanted to give a quick announcement about upcoming events. So next Monday, we'll be back here at 7 p.m. We're going to have an individual come who is going to talk about music, using music in ceremonies and the role that plays. He's a very passionate individual about that. I'm going to talk, kind of break it down to different styles and tempo and how that plays in, and what he calls it can be a hidden therapist even, and I would tend to agree with him. I think music is very powerful. So if that's something that you're interested in, or anyone you know, invite him to come back out. But otherwise, appreciate you guys being here, and